So, my E3 2014 predictions. As for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I've been loosely following headline news, but I still don't have an HD TV, and it's only through the kindness of a total stranger that I own a Wii U right now. So, I'm certainly not concerned about those systems because there's no chance of me getting them, and, you know, it's not like I dislike Xbox and PlayStation. I had the original Xbox and PlayStation 1 and 2 and PSP, and I have 360. So it's not like I dislike the other companies. It's just that I've been focused on Nintendo, and that's really all I have time for, and barely the money to really get into. So I don't have any predictions really. For EA, I really don't care about anything they have to say because anything they say on an E3 stage isn't necessarily subject to what they'll actually do in real life, as we know from E3 2011 at Nintendo's presentation. So I really don't care about them. I'll watch them just because I like watching E3 stuff and seeing people's reaction to it online or whatever. Ubisoft. I I'd like to. It would be great if they went on stage and explained why the new Tetris game they're making is coming out on every system except for Nintendo's. There are technical arguments as to why Wii U can't support certain games just in terms of sheer horsepower. But I'm surely, if the 8-bit Game Boy, which was obsolete when it came out in 1989, can handle a version of Tetris, I'm sure the 3DS and Wii U can. And so that aside, I'd like to see a 3D Rayman game. It was really nice to see Rayman make an unexpected comeback at E3. What 2010 was it? Yeah, E3 2010, I believe, is when they first showed Rayman Origins, and they plussed it with Rayman Legends, and but I remember when we all fought, well, early on when what became Rayman Raving Rabbids on Wii was announced as Rayman 4, and we were expecting, I know I was expecting another 3D platformer like Rayman 2 and 3. And I'm not saying that there's something illegitimate or lesser about 2D games or 2D platformers in general, but there's been a huge resurgence in 2D platformers. I remember there was a time in the N64 and Saturn and PlayStation days when it really seemed like 2D platformers were extinct, like they were done with, like silent films and black and white films. Like it seemed like 2D games were nearly over, with the last holdovers being some games like Mischief Makers on Mischief Makers and Klonoa being side scrollers in that generation, and Game Boy Advance. And it seemed like I remember playing Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, thinking this is going to be the last top-down 2D style Zelda they're ever going to make, because and DS is coming out and that's going to be 3D capable, and it's all going to be 3D from now on. But 2D platformers have had a huge resurgence in the retail scene with the new Super Mario Brothers series and Rayman Legends, and especially in the indie scene, and where now it's 3D platformers that are almost on the verge of extinction, with the three Sonic the Hedgehog and 3D Mario are the only big retail 3D platformers I could think of aside from Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. And there's an indie game, A Hat in Time, and even with Mario and Sonic, I'm not one of those idiots who are gonna say that Super Mario 3D World is somehow illegitimate or not a real 3D game, but Mario 3D World and Sonic Lost World, those are not like you know the sixth generation style, like fifth and sixth generation style 3D collectathon platformers in the style of Mario 64 or Spyro or some other examples, Spyro and Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine. Like there were just so many 3D platformers back then. I can't even. I'm just thinking of all the ones on PlayStation 2, and now like PlayStation is known as like a system for like gritty, hardcore, mature games and shooters and action games. Whereas PlayStation 2 it had plenty and plenty of family friendly 3D platformers, and that's kind of fell by the wayside. And there are very few 3D platformers coming out. I'd like to see Rayman do for 3D platformers what Rayman Origins did for 2D platformers, which at the time the only big 2D retail platformer out was the new Super Mario Brothers series. And now from Ubisoft, I'd like to see a 3D Rayman. I don't expect it. I don't expect to see it. But what I'm really crossing my fingers for, what will get me to have like the biggest like meltdown. Like I don't really have the means, or I don't think I'll be able to do like a live cam reaction where I have the picture in picture with their press conference in my face on a webcam reacting to it. But what would get me to make a really awesome freak out fanboy cheering reaction would be if they show Beyond Good and Evil 2. I burped when I said good, so it might sound a little weird there. But Beyond Good and Evil 2 is really one of the things that'll really make my E3. I have waited year after year for Beyond Good and Evil 2 at E3 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. I want to see it. They keep saying it still exists. I want to see it. Beyond Good and Evil. There's Beyond Good and Evil deserved more attention than it got. If it was a more mature game, more mature looking game rather, if it wasn't so stylized, if it didn't have furries in it, if it didn't like look so cartoony, it probably would have got a lot more attention. But it kind of got passed over. It kind of got ignored, and the advertising didn't help because that advertising made it look like a stealth game with not that didn't look particularly impressive. If it wasn't for Pete Dore's personal recommendation, I would have never tried Beyond Good and Evil for GameCube. And that was out on every system. So Beyond Good and Evil came out on Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube, and PC. So it had every chance of selling as many units as possible, and it was a disappointment at retail. And the sequel's been in development limbo ever since. Are they working on it? Are they not working on it? Has it been canceled? Has it not been canceled? I want to see it. I want to see it. Ugh. Now, that basically leaves me off with Nintendo. I mean, Square Enix, I know the new Final Fantasy versus Deluxe Extra 15-2 Lightning Returns Again edition is going to come out, whatever, I don't care at this point. But really the only other, and I know that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be shown. I want to see Nintendo. I want to see what they have in store. Last year was pretty much every major game they had to show, except for Super Mario 3D World, was not out. Every game they showed except for Mario 3D World. I think I could fairly say that every major Wii U game they showed at E3 2013 in their Nintendo Direct, except for I'm forgetting it already. That's not a good sign. Except for Super Mario 3D World, was a 2015-2014 game. So it was kind of a disappointing E3, frankly, in that regard. Even though I did enjoy the Direct, and I want to see what they have in store. We're basically guaranteed the Wii U Legend of Zelda. That's going to be the big reveal. I think they're going to save that for the end. As for the rest of the presentation, well, Nintendo's a big X factor because last year they announced they're going to do a Nintendo Direct. So we basically know what a Nintendo Direct's going to be. It's going to be Iwata standing in front of a white background, bowing and saying, "Please watch this video." And then they show the trailer. And then after the trailer's over, Iwata comes back in and re-explains the trailer. It's like they show the Mario 3D World trailer. Then they show it. What you just saw was the trailer for the next 3D Mario action game, Super Mario 3D World. And he starts like re-explaining everything we saw in the trailer, and he did that for basically every game that was featured in the Nintendo Direct, and it was frustrating. And I don't know if they're stalling for time or if it's just Iwata's style, but we're getting a Nintendo's thing for E3 2014, It's not. They're not going to do a stage show presentation, and they're calling this a Nintendo digital event. If they were going to, there people are saying, oh, it's just going to be a direct. They're just if they were going to call if there was going to be a Nintendo Direct with excuse me, if it was just going to be a Nintendo Direct, I see no reason why Nintendo wouldn't just call it that. And I think they're going to have some sort of. I think it's not going to be a direct with Iwata standing in a white background or in a empty office room. They're gonna have it's gonna be more of a. I'm expecting something kind of like a pre-recorded talk show like format. Talking about the games and revealing the games. Uh, I think they're probably, if not, they're going to be probably several set pieces. I expect to see Mr. Awad is going to be there. Reggie, I hope, is going to be there because we have not seen Reggie at E3 with a real presence at E3 since E3 2012. He's usually it's usually Reggie and Awad doing the presentations, and E3 Nintendo Direct last year, Iwata, it was all Iwata. I want to see Reggie. I want to see, and because it's pre-recorded, I presume this is going to be pre-recorded. I see no reason why it wouldn't be. It's to their advantage for this to be pre-recorded because you could have Reggie and Iwata and have those those moments they put in. There's some things they put in deliberately to generate memes and jokes and stuff, but then there are the gaffes, the things you don't want to have happen, the awkward moments, teleprompter hang-ups, flubbing lines. Uh, and with a pre-recorded show, they could avoid all of that. So I want to see. I mean, Reggie's a cool guy. Iwata's funny, but they're both very, as cool as they are, as much charisma as I think they have. They're both very prone to gaffes. So, pre-recorded show, no gaffes. I'm thinking I'm going to see a little of Iwata. I mean, I don't know. Iwata said that he's not going to be in Los Angeles due to health reasons. I hope he's all right. I wonder if this is stress related. I'm sure there's been speculation. Uh, a lot of Nintendo people are getting sick. Sakurai injured his hand or something like that, and now Mr. Iwata is sick. I don't know, man, but I think he's going to at least film an introduction for the Nintendo Direct. I don't know how much of the direct was already I'm calling it a direct. I don't know how much of the Nintendo Digital event was filmed in advance of this development regarding Iwata's health, but Iwata's going to at least do an intro. I want to see Reggie. I want to see Bill Trinen and Scott. Who is it? Scott Moffat, who is the fellow who was at E3 2012, which is right now Nintendo's last traditional E3 stage show presentation. He did a segment for 3DS at Nintendo's E3 2012, and he did the secondary presentation that Nintendo did just for Nintendo 3DS. And I liked him. He had a good onstage presence. I think he performed better than George Harrison did. And George Harrison was basically the guy who ran Nintendo's E3 stage shows between 2003 and 2000. Yeah, in 2003, George Harrison was basically the Reggie of Nintendo's E3 stage presentation, but he did not have the onstage presence that Reggie has. E3 2004 and E3 2004 through 07, I think. George Harrison was basically the guy who'd come on and just talk about the numbers real quick and then leave, and even then he was awkward at certain moments. But Scott Moffat, he only had one live E3 show, but he had a good presence. I'd like to see him, but mostly Reggie and Iwata for the Nintendo Digital event. The games I expect to see, I hope I don't see. If I see a Mario game, I either want a 3D Mario for 3DS or 3D Mario for 3DS, and this 3D Mario would either be like sort of a Super Mario 3D Land 2, even though arguably and for practical purposes Super Mario 3D World was 3D Land 2. But if they do a 3D Mario for Nintendo 3DS, I'd like them to make Super Mario 3D Land 2, but I'd like them to make it in the way that like Super Mario 3D Land was sort of named after Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. And when they did Super Mario Land 2, they it was a very different sort of game. It was a different setting, different characters, different power-ups, and different storyline, new worlds, new ideas that were new to Mario. Some of the ideas in Super Mario Land 2 that haven't appeared in Mario since then. Even a new villain was introduced in Super Mario 3D, no, in Super Mario Land 2. I'd like them to take, if they do Super Mario 3D Land 2, I'd like it to be as diverse from Super Mario 3D Land as Mario Land 2 was to Mario Land 1. I'd like new ideas, maybe a new art style, new power-ups and characters and stuff, so it's not just like a basic continuation of Super Mario 3D Land. If they do come out with Super Mario 3D Land 2 and it's literally just, the Super Mario 3D Land, formula with new worlds, I will apply that. I will enjoy it. I would like if they add, optional DLC worlds added later on, or a second quest akin to Super Mario. No, to New Super Luigi U for Wii U. How that was a DLC add-on for New Super Mario Brothers U. But I want to see if they do, and that's if they do a 3D Mario. Either that, or I'd like them to see them do a stereoscopic 3D remake of Super Mario 64 with updated graphics and stereoscopic 3D, because it would be nice to see the first 3D Mario game, the Mario game that really basically introduced the idea of what a 3D game is going to be. Back when the only other 3D platformers were basically like Crash Bandicoot, and then Super Mario 64 comes out. I'd like them to. It would be cool to be able to experience that in actual stereoscopic 3D. If not, but really, I'd like them to cool down on 3D Mario, on Mario in general, both for 3DS and for Wii U. It used to be that a 3D Mario game, a major Mario platform would only come out maybe once per generation, and there was a 5 or 6 year gap between 3D Mario games. Then Mario Galaxy 2 came out, and then Mario Galaxy 2 came out, and then just 2 years later, Super Mario 3D Land came out, and then 2 years later, Super Mario 3D World came out. And that's not even considering, New Super Mario Brothers and New Super Mario Brothers Wii and New Super Mario Brothers 2 and New Super Mario Brothers U all coming out in short concession. So for the first time in really Mario's entire history, there's been a period between 2010 and 2013 where there's been a lot of Mario platformers, both 3D and 2D, released in relatively short succession. I think it would really help the value of the Mario franchise. And yes, I'm calling it a franchise because that's what it is. It would help the value of Mario if Nintendo took a break from Mario games for a while, Mario platformers, and so that they could save their development resources to make either make a new Mario game for Wii U's successor, start working on it now so you can get it out when the new system launches in let's say 17 or 16, and so that you have a 3D Mario that's a big, people were disappointed. Some people were disappointed with the reveal of 3D World, how it looked too similar to Super Mario 3D Land. I think the final product confirmed that those worries were unfounded, that it wasn't just a rehash of 3D Land. But that being said, I think people, and me included, we have high expectations for home console 3D Mario. I don't think they're going to be able to meet that expectation for the Wii U's for Nintendo's seventh home console. For the Mario game should come out. They should know by now. They need 3D Mario at the beginning, and it has a lot to live up to, because when Mario Galaxy came out, it was a pretty big departure. When Mario Sunshine came out, the water pack and the new setting, and that was a pretty big thing. And they need to live up to those standards and make a new concept for 3D Mario. There was the Mario 64 and Sunshine concept where you're collecting stars. There was the Galaxy 1 and 2 concept where it was more linear and you were collecting stars, but it was more linear, and you had the new altered gravity platforming aspect. Then Mario 3D Land was basically, a point A to point B traditional, like Super Mario Brothers 3 style platformer, but taking place with 3D level design. And that was a concept that deserved to be explored. That I mean, I really felt this even before, like when Mario Sunshine was out. I remember when I was a kid watching the Super Mario World cartoon and seeing these worlds where you have, question mark blocks and music note boxes around in a 3D world that was like, playing Super Mario World or Super Mario Brothers 3. And Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine were not like that at all. And so that I liked that Mario Galaxy was moving a bit more in that direction. I really loved Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World. What they did, that expression of Mario's the classic, you know, the signature sort of Mario Brothers 3 Mario World style gameplay, game design in a 3D environment. That had to be explored. And now that they've done that, I think it's time to move on to the new concept for what 3D Mario can be. And I think to have the time they need to do that, to make the best game possible, they need to not have another 3D Mario game on Wii U. The exception I will make is if they do an HD remake. I don't think that's I don't want a remake of Sunshine or the Galaxy games. Those games are very recent. They still need to make the case for why Wii U is worth buying. I don't think they're going to do that with games that aren't even a decade old yet and remaking them in HD as headline Wii U games. They got away with it with Wind Waker HD, and that game arguably didn't sell that many new systems. So for Mario, the only thing I would hope they do, if they make Super Mario 64 HD and give it, Super Mario 3D World or better graphics. Like, you know, Super Mario 3D World looks great. It looks excellent. But I think the polish of Mario Kart 8, it pluses it a bit. If they can make a game with graphics of Mario 3D World, spruce it up, make it look as nice as or even better than Mario Kart 8, and apply that to Super Mario 64, that is a game that deserves to be made. That is a game that's worth a full retail price download for, game for. If they don't, aside from a theoretical Super Mario 64 HD, I really don't want to see a Mario game unless they do. Oh, another thing, a possibility is if they do a Mario game, a 2D Mario game for 3DS that's not a new Super Mario Brothers game that has a new art style and new settings. I'm not one of those people who really hates on the new Super Mario Brothers series. It's deliberately conservative. It's an arcade game. They're well polished arcade games. They're conservative. You basically know what you're gonna get. But I think each time I've played a new Super Mario Brothers game, there are surprises and things that I'm not expecting, and you know, and it's basically a throwback series, a deliberately conservative throwback series, and there's only been one game per system of New Super Mario Brothers. One for DS, one for 3DS, one for Wii, one for Wii U, and New Super Luigi U was DLC for Super Mario Brothers U that Iwata released at retail basically on a whim, basically as a collector's sort of thing. So I really don't have a problem with the new Super Mario Brothers series, but it needs to take a break. I do not hope to see a new Super Mario Brothers game again until the theoretical Wii U or 3DS successor, and even then, it should not be a launch game. It should be something that comes later. So, if they make a new side-scrolling Mario, or even 2.5D Mario in the style of like Klonoa, where it's like a side-scrolling, left to right game, but the environments are 3D and you're moving through a 3D space, but on a 2D plane. If they make a Mario game like that with a new art style, there's so many different art styles for Mario. There's the new Super Mario Brothers, the sort of baseline generic Mario art style. Then there's the Paper Mario art style. There's the Mario and Luigi art style with its watercolor look with the bold lines around the characters, and with Mario and Luigi's it shows their socks. Yeah, they're wearing striped socks. It's a different art style. If they do a different art style and a new something really creative, I'd love to see a new 2D Mario for 3DS or Wii U. I'd rather have it on 3DS because that's a system I'm more into, and the games are more affordable, and I have more time to play 3DS because I can play it on the go. That's the only Mario 64 HD or a new concept 2D Mario. Those are the only Mario games I want to see from Nintendo at E3 this year. Mario Maker is a rumor. I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I do not believe this is real. I can make a whole other video about why I don't think Mario Maker is an actual game. If it is, I'll eat my words and admit I was wrong, but I think it's a hoax. Uh, Aside from that, I already discussed Zelda. We're going to see Pokemon Alpha, Sapphire, and Omega Ruby, and we're going to see 3DS. I just Advance Wars is that game hasn't shown up on the 3DS yet. Uh, three third party support. It's been better on 3DS than on Wii U, but it's not been as strong in DS. I'd like to see more third party 3DS stuff. I'd like to see a lot of creative stuff for 3DS. For Wii U, we know we're going to see Bayonetta 2. We're going to see Monolith Soft's X. We're going to see Smash Brothers. And we're going to see, but I hope that aside from Metroid, and we're going to see the NFC game, something involving figurines. We're going to see uses of figurines in NFC. I'd like to see NFC uses other than figurines. Those do exist. They could theoretically, NFC could be embedded into gift cards, so maybe you could buy like a Wii U gift card or like a Nintendo's points gift card, and then drop it on your gamepad to instantly transfer the points into your Nintendo account. That would be awesome. I'd like to see. I really, aside from that, I really don't know. I mean, Miyamoto said that he's going to. I mean, they've said that they're going to show new software that really extensively shows why the gamepad is essential to Wii U and why Wii U is worth buying for this gamepad experience. I use the gamepad extensively for no reason other than for off TV play because I don't have an HD TV, and on the TVs I have, the Wii U looks horrible. But so I use it extensively, but not for really the right reason theoretically. Nintendo boxed themselves into a corner by making Wii U, and either you could have a game that extensively uses both systems like Nintendo Land or Zombie U, or you could have a game that is playable on either the TV or the gamepad for off TV play. Uh, and those two things are somewhat mutually exclusive. So I'd like to see Nintendo have some games that really show why the gamepad is important and useful. I think Zelda is going to be one of those games. There's going to be probably some new kind of game that will also make use of this, the gamepad and the TV for dual screen asymmetric play. We might see something that uses two gamepads, and that's something people were begging for, even since E3 2011. But at this point, Nintendo is fighting tooth and nail to make the case that Wii U is worth buying and that the gamepad is worth even investing in the first place. So I think the last thing Nintendo really needs to do is come out at E3 2014 and saying, "Oh, we can't sell. We're having trouble selling Wii U and its gamepad in the first place, even one. But here's games that you can't leverage the maximum potential of unless you have two players and you buy a second $100 tablet controller." I don't think Nintendo's in a position to make that case. They got stung hard trying to make the case for 4-player connectivity games where you had 4 players with Game Boy Advances. The Game Boy Advance was not as expensive as the Wii U gamepad is. The entire system was not as much as just the controller is for Wii U. So I don't think 2-player gamepad experiences, showcasing those is not in Nintendo's interest right now, in my opinion. Even though they did promise that the compatibility would be there. Aside from that, Metroid, I'd like to see. Metroid, they came out at E3 2009. Metroid Other M was the biggest game surprise at E3 for Nintendo since the reveal of Twilight Princess at E3 2004. The game did not live up to the hype. It alienated Metroid fans, it alienated reviewers, and it was not very popular. It took, I think, over a year for it to even break 1 million units. It was a flop. And arguably, it damaged the reputation of the Metroid brand as a whole. And it's a shame because the gameplay, at times, it came very close to being what Metroid can be as a non-first-person shooter. But there were too many. It wasn't polished enough. The writing was bad. Sakamoto, I don't know what he was thinking with some of the decisions he made. Some of the decisions he made are so weird that and people are blaming Team Ninja for some of the storyline and other decisions made with Other M when that was all Sakamoto's fault, and he's a Metroid veteran. So Sakamoto's not going to be involved with the new Metroid. I heard. Um, is Retro going to be making it? It seems like it. Would it? Do I want it to be a first-person shooter? Do I want it to be basically Metroid Prime 4? No, I don't. I want to see. I'd like to see a new concept for Metroid that's not a first-person shooter, and I think Retro's the company to make it. They really disappointed. I mean, Donkey Kong Country Returns, perfectly competent game. It's perfectly polished game. But with all the hype that had been building up since, excuse me, the hype that had been building up since E3 2011 for Retro to come out and show a Donkey Kong Country Returns 2 pretty much, it was not what people were expecting. Excuse me, I'm coughing a lot and I don't have time to edit this video down. Basically, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was very predictable, and it was not. It was predictable, and it was not what people were hoping and expecting for. With all the hype about, Metroid's big project, Retro's secret project, Retro's, secret killer game that they've been working on behind the scenes for Wii U is, a sequel, a 2D platformer. And not that there's anything wrong with 2D platformers, but it's not what people were expecting. It was conservative. It was a pretty predictable, conservative, playing it safe move. That's kind of what Nintendo needed because within reason, Donkey Kong Country Returns, outsold Metroid Prime on the Wii. So it was a hit game. There's no reason, and it's basically, unfortunately, I have to say it. I think if a Metroid Prime 4 came out at the time that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze did, it would have sold systems to Nintendo fans, but would not have had the appeal that the sell through that Donkey Kong Country Returns had on the Wii. So I really can't blame the business decision for them to come out with Donkey Kong when they did. But what I hear, the whispers are that Retro is big enough at this point that they could have two teams working on stuff. So if I'd like it to be the case that they came out with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze because they could get that out sooner, and that in the background they were also working on a new Metroid game, and that after they finished Tropical Freeze, they got all their resources pooled into this new Metroid game that we're gonna see. I mean, if they come out first thing with Metroid, with Zelda, then I think there's a decent chance that at the end of the Direct, they're going to drop Metroid at the end of it. I say that, and if they start off not with Zelda, then I think they're going to drop Zelda at the end. But if they start off with Zelda, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to get Metroid at the end. Aside from that, Nintendo, you never know what to expect from them. I want surprises. I'd like big announcements. That's basically all I could say for them. I can't think of anything else. This video is over a half hour. And, yeah, so I'm going to have to export this video and go back to doing as I was doing. And hopefully Nintendo, they get the announcements are worth the $30, the more than $30 I'm paying for my train ticket to Nintendo World to watch it, in New York City with a bunch of other Nintendo fans and not just sticking it home at my house. And also, I hope their stream goes smoothly. If I haven't said that before, because I might have said it over nearly a half hour ago now, but I hope their stream has good bandwidth and that they anticipate the traffic, and that this is Nintendo's biggest E3 ever. Because basically, like I said before, this E3 is basically going to be what decides if Nintendo could turn Wii U around and get a good, at least break 21 million, I think it was, which was the lifetime sales of GameCube. At this point, if they break the 21 million, it's pretty much what, if they can make 30 million, I think they will have turned around Wii U to the point where they could, have a strong entry into the Wii U successor, and not and be in a position of total defeat. I want to see a strong, confident Nintendo. A great selection of games. Things we're expecting, things we're not expecting in a positive way. Oh, let me talk a bit about what I expect for Zelda. Um, Zelda, I think it's going to be colorful. It's not going to be. People are expecting the Zelda HD experience, which is basically Twilight Princess on super steroids. I don't. It's not going to be that. And the second it's not going to be that, a lot of people are going to be upset. People are going to be upset in the way that people were upset over Skyward Sword when it was first revealed. Ah, people are going to be upset, and they're going to be whatever. I'll make a whole other video about that. Excuse me. So that's it. Enough for this. More than enough for this video. Thank you for listening. This is basically a podcast at this point. So, and thank you very much for watching.